Something else my team does is a thing called Gauntlet of Pain. It's pretty painful, but it's painful the way we do it. You don't have to make it as painful as the way we do it because we're trying to like make deadlines and stuff like that. Hi, I'm Katya Alexander and this is Pocket Change Films, the podcast where I teach you how to make a film with your pocket change, then build your portfolio, then start getting budgets for your projects, and then hopefully making your first micro-budget feature.
Pocket change, pocket fame, film with a spark. Will I have to scream when we hit play in the dark? Innovation, creation on a shoestring beat. Join the journey, feel the heat and everything.
For those of you who don't know me, I've been an indie producer in the industry for 12 years. I sold my first feature to Abamarama and PBS, and later had a movie win South by Southwest, and it was sold to IFC and became a trending film on Hulu. I also worked in the Las Vegas Sphere, which was a boot camp between the intersection of entertainment and technology. I want to use all my experiences to inspire young people to join the film industry, make their movies, and make their dreams come true. On the last episode, I talked about getting jobs in the film industry and how to start your actual film career where you're making money within film. I also told my personal story of how I made my career and the ups and downs of my personal career. Even when you hit success, there's still going to be ups and downs, and you just have to enjoy the entire journey. In this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about post-production. I'm going to give you some of the technical tips and some of the creative tips and some stuff that I always am looking for as a producer. So, if you shot on 4K, depending on what you're editing on, your first step will probably be to make proxies. I have a pretty powerful computer that can handle like exporting feature films and like doing VFX and stuff like that, and I still use proxies just because it's way easier. If you shot on film that is raw, something else you're going to want to do is color the proxies. You're not looking at low saturated, annoying footage while you're editing, and you have a little bit of life in the thing that you are editing. Later on, when you have clients and when you have EPs, especially people who are not as involved in the film industry, it's really good to always show them colored footage because sometimes the uncolored, unsaturated footage can be a bit confusing to some of the people, and all of the notes you'll get back are like, why does the footage look like this? It should have color. So I just always add like a LUT or just do like a little bit of coloring before I export into proxies. So you can use DaVinci or Premiere to make your proxies. You can also use Avid, but I don't use Avid. I got my certification in it and then immediately stopped using it. I am not a fan of Avid. If you are a fan of Avid, good for you. I love it. Keep being you. I don't use Avid. I use Premiere or DaVinci. For people who are just starting out, just so you know, DaVinci is a free program, so feel free to do everything in DaVinci. If you're a student, Adobe does offer a lot of student discounts and different ways that you can afford the program, but it is a monthly fee, so it can get pretty expensive. For me, I have the whole Adobe suite and it's a little over $50 a month. Even though I do all of my editing in Premiere, I do make my proxies in DaVinci. So I'm going to show you a bit of how to do that. Basically, you import your media and then it's going to be uncolored. I put all the media into the timeline. I add a LUT on everything. Then I go and I do all of these export settings to make myself proxies. I make a folder that matches exactly what is in the raw footage folder, except for it just says proxies. Every single folder within a folder should have the exact same name. That way later when you're relinking, Premiere doesn't get super confused. It will be able to find the footage pretty easily. Once I have the proxies, I sync sound. Hopefully on set you were using a slate and you were calling out the shots and slating before every single shot. That's how you sync up the sound. You use a slate. If you're a bit more high tech, you could also use a tentacle or something like a tentacle, which is basically a way to sync your time code between your camera and your sound equipment. Then you can just do like sync by time code and everything syncs together immediately. Personally, I do use a tentacle for all of my shoots, especially when it's multi-camera. All the cameras are sunk up, all the sound gear is sunk up. But that's really high tech, so that's probably going to be later on in your future. A tentacle doesn't even work with every type of camera. It mostly works with cinema cameras that have actual time code. So once you've sunk sound and you have your proxies and you've picked your editing program, now it's all about the creative. You can do a lot of different edits, so strap in and enjoy the process. If you want to be the first editor on your project, that's fine, but I do suggest that you're not the last editor on your project. When you wrote it and you directed it and you potentially produced it as well, you're way too close to the project. You need to have fresh eyes on it and sort of editing it because A, you can just go absolutely crazy, and B, the project ends up not being as good as it could be. Again, feel free to have all your first cuts be yourself, but then potentially ask a friend or somebody to come in and edit the last bit of your movie. Even better if they weren't a part of the project from the start, so that they truly are completely new and fresh eyes on your movie. Something else my team does is a thing called Gauntlet of Pain. It's pretty painful, but it's painful the way we do it. You don't have to make it as painful as the way we do it because we're trying to like make deadlines and stuff like that. And so it's, just a nightmare for us. So for us, because we were trying to make the South by Southwest submission deadline, our Gauntlet of Pain was that our editor would edit from 9 a.m. to like 6 p.m. each day. And then we would have a new cut of the movie. We would export the movie, and by 8 p.m. we would have an audience of anywhere between 5 and 10 people come in and watch the movie, a brand new audience who's never seen the movie before. We would give them surveys, they would fill out the surveys as they were watching the movie, and then afterwards we would have a really long discussion with them about what we should add, what we should take away, what was working, what was not working, what they didn't understand, what they did understand, blah, 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 blah. The conversation went on till about 12:30, sometimes 1 in the morning. And then our director would stay up from 1 a.m. all the way to 9 a.m. starting to add all of the notes that the people had given us. And then we would hand the movie off to our editor starting at 9 a.m. Our director would take a nap, essentially. Our editor would go from 9 to 6 p.m. We would have a brand new version of the film, export, have a brand new audience come in, watch the movie, do a survey, do the conversation, and we did that every single day for 2 weeks. By the end, we had a very, very polished movie. You don't have to do it that way. But if you want to make it a longer Gauntlet of Pain, having an edit, doing a test screen with people who have not seen your movie yet, and then getting their notes, getting their ideas, applying those notes, doing another test screening with people who haven't seen your movie yet, etc., etc., etc. It's similar to the script advice I gave earlier on in this podcast, but getting notes from a wide range of people, especially people who are not filmmakers, people who live in different states, people who are from different cultures, getting notes from all those people will make your film more and more widely acceptable and marketable. Once you've reached a cut that you feel amazing about, you're not getting as many notes for, and you feel ready, that is a process called picture locking. Picture locking means you cannot make any changes to the picture anymore. There's like some mild exception to the rules, but for the sake of this and where you are at now, there are no exceptions to the rule. No exceptions. You are done editing this movie. You are done doing anything to this movie. It is how you have made it. The exceptions are if you want to later on when you're working with a professional colorist and a professional sound designer, if there's a change you want to make, you can ask them if it's acceptable and how to do it so that it works with their workflow and you can make the change. But even those changes are very, very limited. For me, when I'm coloring and someone wants to make a change in their film, I'm like, listen, you can do this, this, and this, but that's it. You can't do this, this, and this. You can't do this, this, and this. You can't do this, this, and this. This is your one option. And then they'll take it and we'll work together to figure out how that works. When you picture lock, you start a process called conforming because you're probably going to color and sound design in different programs than you edit it in. So for conforming, the first thing you need to do is relink the raw footage where all your proxies are. So I'm going to talk through this process of how you do this on Premiere because that's the program that I use. But if you're doing this on DaVinci or Avid, feel free just to Google how do I relink original media from the proxies on this program and you'll be able to find it. So for Premiere, what I'm about to say is going to be very controversial. And I'm saying this in the context that you have backed up the media on a second hard drive. You, when you're making a movie, should have 2 to 3 hard drives with backups. You have your original, you have a backup, and potentially a second backup. And these hard drives should never be in the same place at the same time. You should have one go home with your cinematographer, have one with yourself, have one with your editor. So that if somebody's house burns down or there's a flood, you have not lost your whole movie, you've only lost one hard drive. On bigger productions, there's even rules in place that all the media can't be on the same plane at the same time. We have different people bring back the media and they all have to be on different flights. And then we'll have one that's shipped through the mail. Just in case a plane goes down, your project is not gone. Oh, you know that you have this backup, it exists, whatever. You're going to highlight all of your media. Make sure that the sound and the picture are unlinked from each other, so you're only highlighting the picture. You're going to unlink the media, and when it asks you if you want to delete that media off the hard drive, you say yes. You want it to be gone, because if that media remains on the hard drive, it will constantly relink to your proxies on every program, and it's a nightmare. It's really annoying. So I just delete them off the hard drive. You can even just do that. If you just delete the proxy folder off your hard drive, and then when it says media not found, and you just link it back to the original media, that works too. Again, the proxies are on one of the backup hard drives, so they exist. They're not completely gone from the ether, but they are gone from this hard drive. Another pro tip. One time I did this and I had the audio selected and I accidentally removed all the audio from the hard drive. I was traveling at the time, so my backup hard drive was at home and my video was due the next day. So I did not have time to get home, get this other hard drive. I needed to color and sound design the project that day so I could turn it into the client the next day. I was freaking out. I was actually visiting my parents. And so I'm sitting there crying. They're Googling like crazy, how do I get the media back? How do I do anything? Because this won't be in the trash of your hard drive. It's gone. Premiere will just completely delete it. Pretty much every single forum I found is your media is gone forever. You will never find it again. I'm so sorry. Your movie is gone. Blah, 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 blah. I'm freaking out. I'm crying. I'm oh, I have to leave. I have to go get this hard drive. And my dad was okay, let's go for a drive. You need to clear your mind. So we go for a drive. And while we're driving, I have an epiphany. So I get back home and I use a hard drive restoration program. Basically, if you accidentally wipe your whole hard drive or something happens to your hard drive, you can use a restoration program to find the files. And as long as the files have not been overwritten, they'll still be there in the metadata of your hard drive. And I have also learned for those files to be overwritten, that hard drive has to become completely full, or at least full enough that it needs to start overriding old data. Because when I use this program, I had found files from 10 years earlier that were still in the metadata of this hard drive. And I was able to restore all of the audio, brought it back, completed everything on time, sent it to client was happy, everybody was happy. And then I went back to all the forums that said that there was nothing to do, and I gave those instructions being there is something to do. If anybody ends up on this forum in the future, you can see that there are solutions to this. And it was a happy story. So if that happens to you, just use a hard drive restoration program and you will be able to save your footage again. These are the types of things you have to figure out as a post supervisor. Things always go wrong and you need to just figure out okay, what am I going to do? Because the movie must go on. The show must happen. So how am I going to solve this problem? The last thing you have to do is go into the sequence settings and change the resolution of your project from the resolution of your proxies to the resolution of your raw footage. So you can figure out in the metadata what that resolution is and then make sure your sequence settings match that. As long as all of your audio isn't nested and it's just in the timeline, you could just export into an AAF file, and pretty much all sound designers can use that file to sound design your media. So conforming for sound is pretty easy. Conforming for color, on the other hand, is tough. If you edited in DaVinci, you don't have to conform. You literally just click the color panel and it moves your project on to the next stage and you start coloring. But if you edited in Premiere and you don't want to color in Premiere, you want to color in DaVinci, you have to move your project over to DaVinci. So to do that, you would first copy the sequence so that you have a new sequence. This is going to be your conform sequence, because the first step is you're going to have to remove all of the effects off of all of the clips. You can't have a single effect on any of the clips. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to try to get everything onto the same level. You don't want to have a bunch of layers of media. You just want everything in one level. And all of your title cards and everything like that, remove them. They're gone. They're not there anymore. Once everything is on one video channel, all right there, then you're good to go. You export to an XML file and then import that XML file into DaVinci, import all of your footage. Everything should link up, and then you can just go and color. When you're finished coloring and you're exporting out of DaVinci to put back into Premiere, make sure that you're exporting as individual clips, not one timeline, and make sure you're exporting the entire clip, not just what you used in the film, but the whole clip. Because later you can do a similar process of relinking now the color footage into your project instead of just the raw footage, and you want to make sure you have the whole clip so that it all links up properly. When you're sending stuff to your sound person, you should have 2-pop at the beginning so that they can match up the picture to the sound. And then later when they give you the sound, you're going to match it up with the 2-pop in your project file so that everything lines up perfectly. First project, you don't have to do anything too crazy. You just want to kind of get any of the static out. You want to get any of the background noise out. You want to add any sound effects you have. And that's pretty much it. You don't have to do a full Oscar-worthy sound design experience. You just want your movie to sound good. And then same thing with color. You're not going to do like a Sweeney Todd crazy specific color. You just want it to look good, So don't go too crazy with the color. Just keep it very, very light. And same thing with sound design. Don't go too crazy. Keep it very, very light. And then when you link it all back together, you should feel amazing about your project. Now, when it comes to music, there are lots of places where you can find royalty-free music, and you can also buy royalties to music. It can cost anywhere between $10 and like $100. I love MusicBed because they have really, really high quality music, but it is definitely more expensive. So feel free to use any royalty-free music program that you like. Make sure that you add the music in before you send it to the sound designer, because when they're doing sound mix, they're going to need to have the music in there. And then when you put it all together, there you have it, your finished movie. When it comes to the credits, both at the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, for the beginning of the movie, you don't need credits, and for short films, I tend to encourage against it because the movies are already so short, so you don't want to waste time having credits. Just have your title card and that's it. At the end of the movie, look up credits from your favorite movies, read the order that they're in and the way people are credited, and then just match that order in your credits. That's usually what I do when I have a question of like what the order of everything should be and like how many times you repeat certain names and different stuff like that. As I was talking about with the script, you want to make sure your film is under 15 minutes long because most film festivals won't accept your movie if it's over that. They won't say that in their guidelines. They won't say, no movie over 15 minutes, but it's kind of an unspoken rule that if your movie is over 15 minutes, it won't be accepted into a film festival. So when you're editing, just try to keep the movie as short as you possibly can. If you can get it under 10 minutes, you'll even have a bigger chance of getting into film festivals. And so that's how you make it through the post-production process. Outside of that, it's just your creativity. It's just the movie that you want to make. I can't tell you how to make the movie that you want to make. So you just have to go out there and make it. On the next episode, I'm going to talk to you about applying to festivals and then navigating the entire festival experience when your movie is done. My name is Katya Alexander, and this is Pocket Change Films.